Nvidia isn't just a chip company, it's the Federal Reserve of AI. Just like the Fed that controls interest rate that determines which company get to live or die, Nvidia controls the compute rate that determines which AI companies can afford to exist. Today we're going to break down the brutal math behind AI's most uncomfortable truth. While traditional software businesses enjoy 85% gross margin, AI companies are bleeding negative. And it all comes down to one simple economic fact in AI. Profits flows upstream to whoever controls the scarcest technology. So here are some numbers. OpenAI is valued at $500 billion. The gross margin, only 48%. They're the most recognizable names in the world right now, and they're deliberately burning money to acquire market position. The classic consumer tech playbook. OpenAI tried to subsidize the user experience to build an unassailable market position. The revenue breakdown reviews everything. 85% come from this $20 per month subscription plan, only 15% from API sales. They're prioritizing consumer market penetration over profitable enterprise sales. Why? Because consumer scale creates network effects and data bolts that eventually become profitable monopolies. But here's the crucial difference from past tech companies. Unlike Uber's costs that decrease with scale, OpenAI's compute costs scale linearly with usage. Every ChatGPT conversation burns compute power. They're betting they can achieve pricing power before the cash actually runs out. So at the application layer, companies like Cursor, the AI coding assistant that reached $500 million in annual recurring revenue, are reporting very negative gross margin. Cursor sends nearly 100% revenue to Claude for model usage. They're more like a fabulous user interface wrapped around LLM. Compare this to traditional software companies like Slack or Salesforce, which achieve 85% gross margin, has nearly zero marginal cost. Once you build it, serving an additional customer costs virtually nothing. But AI application bring real compute dollars on every single interaction. Here's where it gets interesting with Nvidia. While OpenAI and Cursor struggle with margin, Nvidia reports 73% gross margin on their latest earnings. They're the ones actually making money in AI. Nvidia isn't just selling chips, they control the ecosystem every AI company depends on. The software platform has 90+% market share in AI development, creating switching costs so high that alternatives become economically irrational. So the comparison to the Federal Reserve isn't just metaphorical, it's even structurally identical. When the Fed raised interest rates, suddenly every business that depends on cheap capital finds their unit economics under pressure. Restaurants, real estate developers, growth startups, they all feel the squeeze because their fundamental input costs just went up. Now, replace interest rate with compute rates and cheap capital with cheap inference. When Nvidia just H100 allocation or pricing, every single AI company downstream feels the impact immediately. The inference costs, the money they burn on every user interactions, fluctuate based on decision made by the Nvidia boss. The Fed doesn't just set rates, it controls the money supply. It literally decides how many dollars exist in the economy. Nvidia, through its CUDA ecosystem and chip allocation, essentially controls the compute supply. So you want to train a model, you need CUDA. Want to deploy at scale, you need their data center infrastructure. Want to optimize inference, you need their software stack. There isn't just a temporary advantage, this is the architectural control over an entire economy. In addition, Nvidia avoids an existential problem all the AI SaaS and startups are facing right now: user retention. Traditional SaaS companies measures annual recurring revenues, but AI applications are increasingly forced to track monthly revenue, or some moving to weekly recurring revenue because users simply don't stick around. While ChatGPT Plus leads AI subscription services with a 71% retention rate after 6 months, that's still disastrous compared to traditional enterprise software. Enterprise SaaS typically sees 90% annual retention. Claude Pro managed 62% retention after 6 months. Google's Gemini Advanced hits 60%, while Perplexity Pro dropped to 49%. Even more concerning, free AI users shows 19% monthly churn rate, meaning most users disappear within months. Why does this happen? Unlike traditional software that becomes deeply embedded in workflows, most AI applications are experiential. Users try them, get initial value, then move on to the next shiny AI tool. This creates a vicious cycle. High churn forces AI companies to spend heavily on customer acquisition, but the negative unit economics means each new customer actually loses money. They're trapped in a recurring race, running faster and faster just to stay in place. The financial impact is staggering. According to Bain, a 5% increase in customer retention can boost profit by 25 to 95%. But AI companies are moving in an opposite direction. watching retention rates decline as novelty wears off. Before we go deeper into the topic, let's examine the last time we saw such dramatic value creation and destruction, the dot-com bubble. The parallels are striking, but the differences reveal why AI's profit concentration might be even more extreme. During the dot-com bubble, Cisco was the one selling the gold shovel. It became the world's most valuable company with a $500 billion valuation, maintaining 65% gross margin, while selling networking equipment. Cisco sold the foundational infrastructure that every internet company needed. Telecom companies invested over $500 billion in infrastructure, laying 80.2 million miles of fiber optic cable, representing 76% of all digital infrastructure in US history up to that point. The massive infrastructure of investment created the foundation for everything that followed. Meanwhile, 74% of dot-com companies had negative cash flows, with most never generating revenue, not even mentioning profit, which is exactly similar to what's going on right now in the AI space. The application layer was burning money to acquire users, hoping to achieve network effects and eventual profitability. Even Amazon didn't become consistently profitable until much, much later, operating at losses for over a decade while building market positions. The dot-com era shows that infrastructure providers can maintain high profit margins during growth phases, but they're vulnerable when their customers fail. However, AI's physical constraints create a different dynamic here, scarcity instead of abundance. This suggests Nvidia's dominance might be even more durable than Cisco's was.